I'm Wes Warren from Whitehall Management. This is Greg Stanley, also from Whitehall Management. We're going to be talking today about the five, I would say this is probably the top five costly mistakes that you can make in adding an associate to the practice. Obviously, the list is long, and if you really make a mistake, probably into if the list was 20, it's still almost fatal. There's a lot to learn, a lot to know, but we're going to cover, we got time to cover five of them. Greg, why don't you lay out the first one? What, as far as costly mistakes that doctors make adding an associate, what would you put? Maybe it's not at the top of the list, but certainly in the top five.
Okay. First of all, something you said about there's a lot to this. If you'd bring on an associate and for whatever reason, you mentioned that there's 15 or 20 things that you can mess up. If you mess it up enough that it fails, you got to admit 2 lives were destroyed, yours and the associates. Possibly the staff could lose some jobs. In other words, it's a high stakes game that we're playing. So we take this pretty seriously. And so when we lay out things like this, we try to point to real deal breakers, things that are going to really mess you up. And number one is not putting guarantees in your associate advertisement, meaning you put associate position, great opportunity, but there's no guarantees. You got to think like an associate. They want to know, what am I going to get paid the first month? Will I be able to cover my bills, my student loan if I have one? I've got to support my family. I've got all these things on my mind. That's how they're thinking. And here's how you're thinking. You kind of stroll into practice 20 minutes late and with one hand behind your back thinking about something else. You wham out $10,000 worth of dentistry, sometimes by 2 o'clock, and so you're thinking everybody can do this. And so you just think this is an incredible chance for somebody to make money, learn a lot. In your mind, boy, it doesn't get better than this. But if you don't put the money in there, the guarantee for what the associate gets while they're learning their trade and while you're learning whether they are going to make it or not, the odds are really good. Nobody's going to even look at your ad. And so or some really strange situation, a guy that's, fleeing 3 arrest warrants in 4 states or whatever, he shows up.
I think, Greg, we could all agree that more people to talk to and, and running an ad, the better. So if just like hiring a hygienist, or you get 2 or 3 people respond, and you're just kind of desperate and you got to pick one, as the odds aren't very good in your favor that you're going to get one that's good.
When we go through all these things, you'll see that there's just so many of the things that kind of have to line up to make it right. Getting to talk to one person is almost the sure recipe for disaster. Not saying it can't happen. Miracles do happen, but it's best if you don't have to just count on them. All right, Wes, I was hoping you might fill in why we don't have to be afraid to offer guarantees. Ad.
Yeah, it's a couple of things. So one, everybody wants to know is how much of a guarantee, what's the dollar amount? What's it look like? I would say that it's going to range between 500 a day upwards to 1,000 a day. As far as what a guarantee's got to be. In most areas, between 650 and 700 a day gets the job done. So that's a little bit of inside football there. And this gets you people to talk to. People that now know that you're serious, you've got a good thing, and you believe you've got a good thing. That's what the guarantee does. Okay, so this will get you people to talk to.
So that they're going to have to produce at a certain level.
That's the other side of it. They've got to get past that daily guarantee within the first 90 days. They should really be off onto their percentage after that. If they're not, either the opportunity wasn't what you thought, or you kind of messed up on what the real opportunity was, or they're underproducing the opportunity. In either case, you got to get rid of them. And you either got to work on finding a better associate, work on maybe systems to help support them in case acceptance, or you got to go back and make sure that you have enough patient flow, you have enough demand. So either case, you got to get rid of them. So you should not be really afraid of offering a guarantee, because in the end, they have to be off of it pretty quickly. Even at 1,000 a day, that's 16,000 a month. You know, they got to be producing 50, 60,000 a month in restorative to kind of eclipse that. So yeah, in most offices, we don't want to hire an associate unless there's that much demand built up in the practice. So I'm not afraid to say, okay, this practice can do 1,000 a month. It can go all the way up to that point.
All of a sudden,
yeah,
the phone starts ringing.
that's right. That's right. And that is a secret that if you don't know, yeah, you don't get to talk to very many people. And if you just can't get your mind wrapped around the guarantee, then yeah, you're going to talk to 2 or 3 people. You're going to talk to, well, I heard of somebody that's graduated as a friend of a friend, you know, those kind of scenarios, which some work out, some don't. But I guarantee you that talking to more people is hugely beneficial at any point of hiring. So
you're going to provide them an opportunity in this game that makes it so very quickly they eclipse their guarantee, right? Now, one little
right.
side note, in the specialty world of specialty dentistry,
Mhm.
we see people, because the dynamics are slightly different, where it never switches to a percentage. It's just a guarantee, it's a good one, but the owner doctor never forgets in his or her mind that there's a percentage running, and you know they have to look
Right.
at it. So in other words, when you have a staff so well seasoned, referral doctors sending you so many patients.
I would definitely stress, Greg, what we just gave you is general
That's
average
right.
case.
What we're doing is
There's
general
so
dentistry.
many different variables that change these things and knock these guarantees off and may make them go down or go away. So every case is definitely different. So yeah, if you feel like your practice is a little unique, you definitely want to jump on the phone and take up an opportunity to talk with Greg and myself to just kind of point you in the right direction here, so you don't make a mistake.
Yeah, you know, we say no guarantees. You put this money up on the line and they come and you switch them to a percentage. It could even be the same way in general dentistry. If you have enough flow and the staff are motivated enough. See, we just put this associate percentage in there typically to get their motivation, you know, to
Want to
push
do
their,
more dentistry.
right. We're going to talk about that later. And you can decide maybe on your own if you want to throw that in, or maybe you want to call us. Okay, let's talk about number 2, Wes. Not screening out equity seekers, or in other words, matching equity seekers with an equity opportunity. Meaning, if you have people that come in and say, what do you got? And you say, well, it's just a chance for you to earn some money, no equity. And they're thinking, well, I want equity. After this owner sees what I'm capable of, he'll want to be partners. And in other words, after I get my foot in the door, get enough patients and staff on my side who love me, I'll demand equity. It's better if you can smoke this out up front.
Yeah, this one you definitely want to find out, are they really keen on equity? And if they are, you have to be wanting to sell the practice within a year, like sell it. Like that's the game plan. You're transitioning, you're done, you know you're done, then that's okay. If you're fuzzy, if you're not quite sure, you want to screen this out. You do not want people coming in thinking they're going to buy half the place in 2 years or a year and a half, or become partners of some kind. You do not want to do that. You want to screen that out, find out, you know, it's okay if they say, yeah, in 3-4 years, it'd be nice, you know, that's okay. That doesn't get them off of our list. It's ones that are real, no, I really want a place where I could buy in, that I could become a partner. Unless you are ready to sell, I wouldn't do it.
Some of you might be afraid to ask them point blank. Ask them and then
Yeah.
listen. If they pause too long, look around, well, yeah, I guess I'm okay working here. Probably not a good response.
Yeah. This one, you definitely want to talk to them about point blank. And like Greg said, shut your mouth and listen to them stammer and let the uncomfortable silence happen. And they will fill the void with what they're really thinking. And you got to sit back and really listen.
I'd like to address something that happens when you let one of these people through the door. In other words, they pretend they're here for the opportunity, not looking for equity. They get inside, they look around, pretty soon they're busy, 60, 70% of the time. The staff love them. In fact, a lot of the staff actually like them as a person more than the owner and all of that. And so they kind of start to feel strong in their position. It's not uncommon to see them begin to try to shape their own culture, the way they would like to see dentistry done, the way they want people treated, not the way you want. For example, all of a sudden, they just want to do something other than what they signed up for.
Yeah, you get people in that are wanting equity, thinking equity. They want their own chip. A lot of them are younger. So I will just say, a lot of these younger people, especially ones that have never owned a practice, they have some strong feelings and ideas about how poorly this practice is run. And they don't really understand they don't know what they don't know is the problem.
In fact, the longer they are around you and conclude you're an imbecile,
yeah,
and that they're a genius, they just think they should be running this place.
And you do not want these people in your practice.
So don't open the door to this. And some of you have a friend from school that you've already talked to about this. I mean it. Call him right now and tell him you've rethought it. You're not going to do it, because that's just not the basis that typically works out. An old friend from school.
Okay.
It can work the other way, and we're seeing more of it than we really ever have. And that is doctors that are long in the tooth, they've been there a while, would kind of like to sell out, bring somebody in, and maybe they don't really talk the equity thing, but they just think any thinking person would be here a few months, would want to buy it, And we got people now that are just as happy just working for you.
Yeah.
And so if you really need a buyout, don't get a non-equity person. It's a bad fit.
Number 3, not having clear expectations for production goals. This one is classic, where step in and there's no expectations really of anything. You really don't even know how much they should be producing per day. You don't really know how much opportunity. You don't even know how many new patients they should see of the patient flow. You don't know how many hygiene checks they should see. There's really no, it's like I said, you don't even know what you don't know. And if you don't know the answers of the things I just said, you need to get them.
If it's your first associate, meaning you've never put your toe in these waters, let me tell you, one of the mistakes, and this is just killer, you're a little bit non-assertive. You treat new doctors well. Your thought is, if I treat other doctors with the respect I would want, it'll all work out. They'll be me. I'll be them. It'll all be good. And what happens is you start treating them like a doctor who really can't be told things. You treat them with such respect, they don't really know what's expected of them. So they show up for work, they see some patients. The patients seem to be pretty happy, especially when they tell them they don't need any dentistry ever, So your first associate, this is what the mistake tends to look like. You tend to just put them in there, and out of respect for them, not out of your lack of management knowledge, just out of your respect. They're a doctor, and you just let them go and they don't know what they're doing.
Well, yeah, another one that we see is out of respect, like you say, you feel obligated to fill them up, and you're literally handing them your patients you diagnosed, that you sold, that you drug across the line into their chair saying, oh, Dr. Smith will do that. He specializes in that. And all of a sudden, they're eating up a large portion of the patient flow. So much so that the whole thing crumbles.
Can you talk, Wes, about some examples of expectations that kind of come up as we work with associates and owner doctors?
We're looking for an associate to have about 3,000 a day in restorative production as a baseline. That's kind of the expectation. Anything below that, and it really becomes hard to justify their existence there. It's hard to pay the salaries that are included to ramp up their production. So that's the baseline. And so then you kind of just backfill that as far as how many new patients they need to see, how many hygiene checks they need to see to really fulfill that that baseline. And like I said, that's the base. That's the minimum.
Some doctors say 3,000 a day. That's a good start if we don't see that happen pretty fast. I know a doctor in Georgia, he gives them 4 months to get 4,000 a day. And what would you say, when would you want them hitting 4,000, Wes?
Well, 3,000, I want them in 3 months. So that's pretty much standard from what you're saying, that what this other doctor is saying. At 4,000, they're doing fairly well a day. At 3,000, they're covering their costs and you're making a little money. That's the bare minimum they got to get. So yeah, I would say 3 to 4 months, they ought to be hitting that. And that includes new out of school. You might give them 1 extra month.
Here's another first associate blunder. Okay, here we are, 4 months, 6 months along, and this doctor is not coming anywhere close to the numbers you guys are talking about. But you know what? I think it's really my fault. I should have been working with them. I should do this or I should do that. Well, if that associate knew that was going to be expected of them, they certainly should have stood around when they had downtime and watched how you did your procedures in such a short time. Yeah.
If they don't, there's 2 problems if they don't come up to speed. One would be, it could be them, meaning they have some problem, like you said, with speed or communicating with patients. Both can be fixed and nurtured over time. And so you could definitely work with them on their case presentation style, how they deal with patients to kind of get that up. You can also get the staff involved with training to help out and support the associate. So all kinds of things to really support case acceptance. And we definitely work on that. The other side of it is just not enough patients. You could be thin on patient flow and it's just not enough to really feed them.
So the question then is, you're on the hook for this associate's guarantees. They've got an assistant. They're probably doing, call them a hygiene or something. I guess we got to put the money down and buy them some patients through digital marketing, which is going to cost about $100.
Well, that creates a whole nother level of complexity that you just heap onto an already complex problem, because marketing patients are very, very tricky to deal with. And so if the team and the doctor really don't know how to deal with marketing patients and don't have experience with it, that'd be like pouring gas on the fire. It's something you don't mess with on the fly like that. It's something that I would have pre-figured out before I even hired an associate. I'd have monkeyed around marketing, tweaked the systems inside the practice, how we deal with these patients, tracked the case acceptance, got really comfortable with dealing with marketing patients. And then when I bring on an associate, then I would, yes, then you can turn up the new patient crank with the associate for sure.
Really managing the associate practice is really only a serious challenge, I would say, in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
6 to 12 months.
Yeah, about first 6 months.
It really is. Your life's supposed to get easier. Or you have to wonder what you were thinking when you brought them in.
I would agree. I would say the first 4 months to 6 months. Once you kind of get past that point, it is easier. It is better. But yeah, it's a little dicey getting it off the ground for sure.
Okay, number 4, I want to talk about the nightmare team ups of associates and owners. And there's a lot of different versions of this.
Well, the easiest one is having two very, very different points of view on dentistry. This one you have to really, in the interview process, really figure out, are we congruent? Do we line up very similar with our views on dentistry? And when I say views on dentistry, there's people that are occlusion guys, there's quadrant dentistry people, and there's just bread and butter. We do crowns and bridges here and there and fillings. That's what we do, and we're okay, watching teeth. So there's all kind of mixture of dentistry. Then there's cosmetic dentistry. So you have to kind of be in alignment as far as how you see dentistry, what you believe in your heart you want to give to people. And if you're out of sync there, it's a bad fit. It's a bad marriage. It'll be a bad marriage with your team, and worst of all, with your patients. You've cultivated a certain patient base that expects a certain way of being treated and talked to about dentistry. And when you bring somebody in there that's the polar opposite, some of the worst cases I've ever seen, and that's what's happened.
Let me give you an example of one that a lot of you have worked through this, or partially, but the associates haven't. And that is, maybe they're from a poor family. They've been in practice and they only treated tiny little cases to people that didn't have any money, or they were in the student clinic or the charity clinic or whatever. And here you are banging out $5,000 and $10,000 cases all day long. And the associate comes in and says, where do these people get this money? And they can't make it come out of their mouth to say, you need this much dentistry, or here's what it would cost to get what you want, or what. And some of you, like I said, some of you still have some work to do on this area, but most of you have figured out there's people with a great deal of money, and they come in your office and they have a lot of needs. Right. And so an associate that will take a pass on the occasional great case will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year.
Yeah, right.
Because he just didn't have the courage to say, you want $20,000 worth of crown and bridge or whatever.
Yeah, so you got to make sure that the two of you are in alignment on how you think.
Really helps if you have a staff person that's worked beside you, and she just, in her mind, people can get the money, and they kind of stand there and nudge him till he finally starts saying it right.
And
so that's a bad matchup.
The other thing I would say is that you'd want to definitely be similar with your assertive, non-assertive scale. We all fall on the scale. Greg, you've talked about this for years. Confrontational tolerance, all that kind of stuff. You'd want to feel like you're in the same zone there for many reasons, but I would say the big one is for your patients. If you're assertive, they need to be a little assertive. If you're non-assertive, they need to kind of be non-assertive. Having the opposite is not good. So watch out for that.
Yeah, definitely. That would be a very bad fit. And what's sad is, we bring in associates to have a better life in the end. We have kids, that are growing up, or we have we're facing a retirement. We want to spend more time away, whatever the associate's supposed to be doing for us. And what we end up with is a nightmare to come to work and somebody glaring at you, or you're glaring at them, or you're thinking, what are they doing here? This is my office. I put this thing together, and they're treating me bad. So what Wes is saying is, let's nip this in the bud. Don't try to be a nice person that stands ready to accommodate all of their whims. Right. Well, they want this special kind of equipment. They want this endo system. They want that. No, This is
Yeah.
your office. And what you are, one of the questions we're going to get to here in a minute, one of the problems has to do with how you run the office. You're going to have to run the office right, but they're going to have to play their part, fit in, and take orders from your top staff. So that's a bad team up. There can be more, like Wes talked about, people who came from a certain dental institute and somebody who graduated from a certain school, and pretty soon you realize you're not on the same page. And what I've found too, it's important, I know this is an aside, but maybe you both graduated sigma cum laude from Pankey Part 7 or whatever. Make sure you have some patients that are in that zone too, otherwise you're just sitting around telling each other how great dentistry can be and how bad other dentists do it.
Yeah, and I would say another side note is I wouldn't fall from they came from
Yeah.
Ohio State, it must be, I graduated from there, whatever. Yeah, don't fall for that. Look at them and interview them and really don't put too much stock in where they graduated from.
Yeah, they say endo. Yeah, I do endo. I'll say, well, show me some of your cases. Well, I did one, but I don't really think I have any records of it. How would you like to be the patient you're going to turn this person loose on to do some kind of endo, especially molar endo? So there is some vetting involved.
For sure.
And if you're too shy, too non-assertive to do that vetting, and you're not willing to let a staff person or people like Wes and I do it, probably not really ready for an associate yet.
Yeah.
The stronger you are in your dentistry and with your team, the wider the range of dentists you can pull into your zone of success, associate success. Okay, let's go to number 5. No real opportunity offered. Let me explain. Some of you have come to the conclusion for different reasons that you would like to have an associate doctor. Some of you getting older. One of your kids just moved away and you realize, gosh, that kid grew up without me even really paying attention. I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to get an associate in here. Bringing an associate, there's so many reasons. I don't think most of them are bad reasons, but you need to understand what associates want from you. They either want ownership, that is, they want to have half or all of it, or they want an opportunity. Let me describe what that means. Opportunity is a place I can show up every day, and there's plenty of patients, well-trained staff, fairly modern equipment, a decent location. The doctor I work with is an honest, hardworking person that I can respect. That's opportunity. If I am hired by you and you hand me a big old stack of business cards and tell me to go out and meet people so I can get patients, I could have sold stuff door to door and probably made more money. So the idea that I got to work as an employee in your office and bring in, fill up my own schedule and do it for a fraction of what I would if I owned the place, it tends to not last very long.
I will say I hear this a lot, bring on an associate. Well, they got to build up their schedule. They got to build their practice. They got to, no, that's not the right type of thinking. No, that's your job. You and the team should have either that have already been figured out, or if you're already into it with an associate, you need to double time it and figure it out. Because that is what they come here for. They come to become an associate so that they can go home and not think about the place. And like you said, they show up and it's an opportunity. If they're wallowing and half the time it's not busy and they've got to build all these, and in 3 years I'll have a mini practice inside your practice. No, that's not the concept. That does not work. They will not stay very long. Certainly a good associate will not.
And really, to offer opportunity, in the end, you will have to be a good leader, a leader of people. And let me explain what that means. You need to inspire associates, inspire staff, in that you do things right. You have integrity. You don't trick people. I saw a dentist, he'd get people in the chair, get them under anesthesia, and then find other dentistry that he hadn't told them about, run up 2,000 or 3,000 more than he showed them. In other words, kind of a low rent type of practice, low integrity. In other words, you got to be a person of integrity so that staff and associate doctors may not always agree on everything, but they respect you. They know that you do your very best to deliver great dentistry, and that you work fast. You try to do it as affordable as you can. In the end, you will not be able to provide opportunity without being a reasonably good leader. Let me give you another example of opportunity. We find that a lot of times real opportunity is uncovered when we incentivize our team, when bonuses are well balanced, for example, so that staff become as motivated as you are to see the practice thrive. We throw the associate in, it doesn't bring it to a stop. They just keep him going and keep him busy.
Yeah, I would say that, as part of putting this all together with associates is knowing, do I have an opportunity? Is it enough? Do I have enough patients? In most cases, when we talk to people, they actually do.
They don't think so.
Practice, they don't think so. Most people don't think they do because they're not fully utilized. They're not 100% busy. I have downtimes here and there. But I would say without exception, there are practices we talk to that run exceptionally well. But I will say most practices have enough room in them to where you could just claw out enough dentistry to support an associate with it and kind of get your foot in the door. I'd say 80% of the practices out there have the opportunity right now. It's just
when we talk about opportunity, I mentioned it, just burned through it in passing about having great staff. A lot of doctors have enough good staff to pay their bills, send their kids through school, fund their pension plan, whatever. And they let the other people just kind of punch the clock. I've got this incredible assistant. Maybe I got one person at the front, maybe my wife's at the front or my whatever. And so, yeah, we got a team here. We got a bunch of people, but man, too many clock punchers. You throw an associate in. See, like I said, it's not out of the question for an associate to want to cling to guarantees and say things like, well, it's 4 o'clock and I don't know, it's 4:15. My patient was supposed to be here 5 minutes ago, so I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
When you have staff that want to leave too and not produce, that's a bad combination.
Yeah.
So we're not giving, I know this sounds tough, but in some ways our staff become a little bit like the associates' parents. They've got to discipline them, but they've got to stand there and go, hey, there's time, doctor, go in there and do that. There's time to do that endo, or that's patient sitting here. I've already sold it. Go do it. So an associate may not see that for the opportunity that it actually is, but at the end of the day, he or she is making money like they had their own practice almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's 5. I got a long list here.
And I don't even know if these are the top 5. There's a list of 25 deal killers. So if you're thinking about this, you're thinking about bringing an associate, or you even have one and you're concerned and you want some answers, Greg and I are here to help. We'll take an initial call at no charge and we'll actually answer your questions. We won't dodge them.
Right. Get on the phone.
We'll try to give you exactly how we would answer questions for a client. And so there's no obligation. There's no big sales pitch. So we're willing to take a few phone calls per week, people listening. So if you have questions, give us a call.
It's like something I was saying earlier, to decide to bring in an associate is putting 2 lives at risk, at the very least, yours and theirs. In some cases, not getting an associate really puts your life, it downgrades your life because now you're tied to this thing right on through.
Yeah, you can't get a break, and as you get a little older, you just think about selling, you know, and when's the end coming? When if you had an associate, you stop thinking that way, and you just go and tell your
One thing
take.
I want to cover too is that whatever comes up to me, like my wife asks a question, she's doing something and she doesn't know the answer, or I have a question, I just get on the internet, I get on Google, YouTube, whatever, and I can learn more about it than I want to know. This is something, to my knowledge, you will not get the information you need anywhere else. Give us a call. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.